Hi there, welcome to an important video within the Noah Presgrove case. This is in regards to Kaden Pressy and the timestamp being revealed at the side-by-side rollover, which involved Noah Presgrove and him himself getting injured in the process. I have been told by people in the community that I am wrong when it comes to the time of when it occurred. I was saying 2:40 in the morning Monday, and others were saying it's not possible because of what Kaden was doing at that time, asleep, and then shortly afterwards waking up and who he saw in sight. We'll get into that later. Others have been telling me that I'm wrong because what they've heard of, what Kaden Pressy has stated, it was earlier around 2:21, 2:20. These timestamps have come up in recent discussions and others as well in the background, and while some have made sense and there's been updates along the way, this one doesn't sit right, and that's why I'm doing the video right now. I made a prediction, and it wasn't that long ago, that when it comes to Warlight Ref, all guns in, back up against the wall, it could be a 1v all mentality, not in a negative way, just in terms of what people agree and disagree with, but if I stick to it, stick to my guns, I could end up being right, and that appears to be a case today, and I'm going to be presenting it to you. If there are any misunderstandings or updates, then of course they need to be made clear, and that can follow after this video. But in the moment, I just want to show you what I saw with my own eyes and ears when it came to Kaden Pressy's official statement to police in that private interview. And it's something I didn't really want to do because of the nature of it. But it's got to that point where it's like, the only way I can prove it and reinforce what I was originally saying is by showing you the audio. If it causes backlash, it will. It can. People can leave comments down below for numerous reasons. If we need to talk onwards and elaborate and go beyond in analysing, then that's what will be done tonight. Welcome to those that are currently hearing this live premiere. Be sure to stick around for the full understanding. The order of how we'll do things today is, very shortly, I'll play to you the clip, and then I'll read it out as like a rough transcript of what was said, in case you found it difficult to listen to or hard to hear. And then we'll just analyse from there and add on if needed. I'm not going to be looking at additional comments because this video needs to be centered and focused around this particular topic and these alternative timestamps given along the way. And as I said, if an update is required, it can follow after this video. But for those watching right now and in the background, I appreciate it. Feel free to engage with the live chat on the right-hand side if you want. And by the end of this video, let me know your overall thoughts and the implications this can have on the case with particular individuals involved. That can be done down below under the video in the comment section, which will help spread that awareness further with these videos. And you'll find a pinned message as well by me with additional links if you do want to support this channel. Big shout out to Peace in Christ with the green profile picture, once again in recent time for supporting this channel. Very positive to see. And for anyone that's interested in more coverage on this case, and if you have missed out on previous videos, the top right corner of the screen there is an eye symbol. Click there, you get the drop down box with the full playlist as well, which I've all constructed together. Without further ado, it's time to begin this. Just want to set the record straight so people understand. This interview was private, and it was leaked, hacked, and released publicly. And a lot of people by now would have seen and heard it. Is it right for it to be still out there? I guess not. Does it hurt or harm the case? Maybe. But you could argue the damage is already done. And I know after this video, you say, well, that's not the point. You know, it doesn't justify uploading or creating, but how else can it be done? You get what I'm saying? So it's like a 50-50 situation there. So what I'm about to present to you will kind of set the record straight and make people's jaw drop and then come to that realization that Warlight Ref was right and was the main consistent individual present. But it could also lead to backlash in, how could you say this? how could you post this? Could be a bit of a lose-lose situation, but what else can be done? And furthermore, there's been many times in the past where I wanted to make references to the interview or the audio, but I didn't think it was appropriate to do so. I didn't want to be a part of the problem or cause any trouble, right? But when it gets to that point where there's no other choice but to show the evidence, hard evidence, to get my point across, it just has to be done. And don't worry, it's not the whole interview, it's just a very small section, a prominent point with the side-by-side rollover. Was that the beginning for the end of Noah, or was there more before that? You can leave your thoughts down below. But I'm going to play the clip right now. Hopefully the audio is reasonable, and it's only audio. As for the background, the photo, that might not be too relevant, or I might just have it of Kaden's face of some sort, or just like a background. But just be sure to listen in and focus. Let's play the clip.
But there was possibly an incident with the Ranger side by side.
Yes,
and Ranger. But what do you know? What's your knowledge of that?
I do remember seeing a photo of Noah with like a bloody nose or something, and they had a timestamp on it, and it was around 2:40, somewhere around there, and it was a video of some guy like walking up to Noah, showing his face, and then showing the vehicle flipped.
Hopefully you managed to hear it then. If not, or you need convincing once again, rewind back and hit the playback button, because I don't know how else I can make it clearer, right? So just to reiterate the points, a side-by-side incident or accident, referred to as an incident when there's really no damage done. An accident is where there is a form of damage done, but not on purpose. Kind of an interesting reference there for language and wording. But yes, a side-by-side event did occur. Kaden Pressy confirms that with the police, based off what Kaden saw himself, a form of hard evidence. He saw a photo. Kaden Pressy was presented a photo of the side-by-side rollover in which it showed Noah injured, bloodied nose. Now, there'll be some people out there that will say, I told you, Warlight Ref, it was just a photo, it wasn't a video. Bitch, please. Because if you wait around long enough, then Kaden made a reference to a video of a guy who went up close to Noah's face. Why? I guess you get a better look at everything. And the rollover. That's what Kaden said. So the photo which Kaden saw, whoever the individual was that presented it, could well be the one that was present recording it at the time. At the time of when it happened, 2:40 a.m. The photo, the proof, the hard evidence that shows a rollover took place and Noah was injured, which Kaden saw at some point. The timestamp, original timestamp, I'm guessing, from that photo said 2:40 a.m. If Kaden didn't see the video, why would he reference a video and go into a specific detail as in what was shown? So likely Kaden was shown a photo from what he says, but also a video as well. And quite possibly that photo could either be a screenshot or a still frame from the video itself in the gallery app, which gives the original timestamp. Similar to the Brylan Sweat slapping Noah Presgrove, the original gallery screenshot of that video as a still photo shot, which shows the original timestamp at 1:05 a.m. This is what I mean. When it comes to consistency, there you go. And it's quite interesting how Kaden Pressy is regarded as one of the most consistent people out there. But over time, people, when making references to what Kaden has said or done or this and that, doesn't match up. And that at times where I say things and it's wrong, Sometimes yes, and other times like this, not so much. It's remained consistent with what I've said, what I've remembered, what I've heard, remained consistent from the source, the horse's mouth. It really sets a tone, just like how in life I could be the darkest negative person about, and there's a lot of other positive people around, but when the time really bloody well matters, where people can't see the positives, and yet I'm the one somehow manages, when really I'm not in a position to be doing so myself, because I may lack it, I may not have the energy, I may not have the focus or mood, and yet I somehow manage to claw my way out and pinpoint something, pick up on a positive, which no one else can. It's like a sudden change of things. I do what they originally did, but at the time of that, they're doing what I'm doing. It's a massive turn of tables, and it gets very complex and deep when you apply it to life. So let's not go too far off. In terms of this case, I think what it goes to show is that Kaden Pressy isn't that consistent, but neither are other party goers. I can't do it all at once, right? That's why some people think that these type of videos, I'm going all in like a witch hunt. I'm not. I'm covering a range of different people with time. I said the purpose of this video is to reiterate the timestamp which Kaden gave, which he said to the police guy. Could it have changed since? Was there a discussion elsewhere, an update? Maybe. But if you was to compare this private interview to the latest one from Partners in True Crime, which isn't new now, is it? There's a 1 month difference. June and then July. July, Partners in True Crime. June, the private leaked hacked interview from what we've seen today. In Partners in True Crime, so no one gets mixed up, when it came to the side-by-side rollover, Kaden did not go into really any detail because he didn't remember seeing or hearing it. Oh, I don't know. Well, Kaden, in the moment, may have not seen it. Fair enough, if he was asleep. Kaden originally said he went to sleep at 2 in the morning, was woken up at 2:42 a.m. I know some people say 2:43, it could be 42 or 43. A 1 minute difference in this case isn't the end of the world, right? I'm going to stick to 2:42. We're going to be consistent, okay, with what Kaden has referenced previously. 2:42 a.m. Alicia Lee, Kaden's mother, calls. Kaden's woken up. And in that happening, after the call's been done, announcing and confirming Kaden's cousin Georgia successfully being taken home safely where she belongs with her mother, Melissa. Once that call done, Kaden is awake. He needs to get back to sleep. And he said close to 3 in the morning, that's when he did. But before going back to sleep, when looking around because you're awake and conscious, Kaden said he saw Noah Presgrove awake, alive. Jack Newton, of all people as well. Jack claimed to be asleep, Kaden saw him awake. And Jasmine Milan around the beer pong table. That was said in Partners in True Crime. How was it worded in the private interview? Well, the timestamp of 3:24 a.m. is when Kaden attempted to go back to sleep. Not close to 3 in the morning, as in the Partners in True Crime or Facebook statement by Kaden, but actually 24 minutes later, as said in the private interview. And what else was a difference between the timestamps? A difference of 24 minutes, quite big and major. That in the private interview, Kaden stated that he didn't actually see Noah present. He just assumed that Noah was around. What does that say? That there's a chance that Noah wasn't actually there. Well, where was he then? Outside? The follow-up with the side-by-side rollover? Or already taking a shower? Guess it depends. It's like when Kaden was asleep, events unfolded, and then the aftermath of it, that's when Kaden was awake, still unaware. And that's the transition from Noah going from outside, rollover, to inside, shower, in the shower. Kaden may be awake at that time, can't see Noah, assumes he's still at the house, which technically he could be, just in a different room. Then when Kaden finally gets back off to sleep, that's when Noah makes his appearance again in the same room. And whatever happens, happens. Then the bedroom debacle, and then supposedly walking off. Then the next time Caden's woken up is when it's too late. This is not blaming Caden's sleep pattern or internal body clock. It's just referring to how when he's asleep, things happen. When he's awake, they're no longer happening, or Noah's moved on elsewhere or in a different room. So it's understandable that Kaden, consistently with both interviews, may have not actually physically been present at the time of the side-by-side rollover to witness it. But a person who could well be a party goer did share the photo, and I'm guessing the video of it, which just so happened to give the original timestamp of it. And that's why Kaden was able to re-quote it, not as a direct witness, but as kind of like second-hand information passed on through hard evidence. I don't know if I can make it any clearer, but do people understand where I'm coming from now? 2:40 a.m, the side-by-side roll over. Some people could be awkward and say, well, maybe 2:40 in the morning is the time of when the video was shown or the photo was shown to Kaden. That wouldn't be possible because Kaden was asleep. 2 minutes later, he was woken up by that phone call. 2 minutes earlier, he would have been asleep. And I said, Kaden made a reference that the photo, on the photo, somewhere, it said 2:40. What other time could that mean? It likely would have to be the timestamp of when that photo was taken, or at least the video taken. Could you be awkward? And I just want to be fair here, but could you be awkward and say, maybe there was a screenshot taken of that video at 2:40 by the person that had the footage at the time of when Kaden was asleep, then at a later time or on another day, they showed Kaden that photo, that video, which gave a timestamp, not of the true time of the rollover, but the time of when that person who received the video decided to take a screenshot of it at the time of when Kaden was asleep. If you wanted to be awkward, you could suggest that, but to be honest, at least how it's worded and how it seems to come across, and Kaden didn't question it too much, and he just said it fairly confidently, 2:40 a.m. roll over, would be somewhat consistent with the fact of it happening at a time of when Kaden was asleep. Because in the Partners in True Crime Public interview, Kaden did say he didn't see it himself firsthand because he was asleep. But obviously someone else did in order to get a video, a photo of the event. Whoever recorded or took the photo, were they the same person to then show it to Kaden later? And why? What was the reason behind it? Hey, have you seen this cool clip? Was it shown before or after the announcement of Noah's death? If it was after the announcement of Noah's death, why would they show it to Kaden of all people when Kaden is simply a friend to Noah? And then you got Jack Newton, who is the best friend to Noah. Unless it did its rounds, passed around. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? What does this mean? What does that? It's trying to understand the purpose behind it. Just like the purpose, the motive behind, oh, here's a good idea. Let's record Noah having a shower, possibly with no clothes on, and we'll record it. Why? What good does that do? Oh, just in the moment, for the fun of it. It's funny. But why do it beforehand in terms of when Noah's best buddy, but not Jack, jumped on in and then they were laughing and it was so funny. Oh, it was so funny. And you wanted to recreate a memory, surely you would record it then and not before, where it's just Noah hunched over, as people described from watching it. Noah hunched over, not saying much, not that responsive. Wow, that's exciting. That's memorable. Let's record that. Sounds like Noah's in a vulnerable place at that point. But then when that other person comes on in, oh, sudden life brought into him and it's all great, but we won't record that. will record before. What's the point? It's like you got a dead flower, or you got a rose which hasn't blossomed or opened yet, and you think, right, I'm going to take a photo of that because that's good. And then 2 seconds later, it suddenly opens and pops, burst with colour, and it's like, wow, that's even better. That's what I should have taken a photo of, and I can do right now. I've got the opportunity, but I'm not. I'll stick to the original. Doesn't make much sense. Anyway, just to reiterate back to the start, is this 2:40 a.m. timestamp a problem? Because some people would say yes, if it was true. Seems more likely now. But at the time, people were saying, if it was true that it was 2:40, how would it even make sense? Because Kaden Pressy was asleep, and not too long after, when he was woken up at 2:42, 2 minutes later, when the mother called, Kaden recalled in the Parts in True Crime interview that he saw Noah awake and present at the party. And yeah, that came across as true. We believed in it. Fine. And also Jack was there. Yet in the private interview, a different story is told. Kaden says, I didn't see Noah. I just assumed he was there. Yeah, bit of a problem. Could both stories be true to an extent? No, not really. If better language and wording was used, such as, oh yeah, at 2:42, I was woken up by the phone call from my mom. Closer to 3 in the morning, I saw Noah, Jack, Jasmine near the beer pong table. And then around 3:20, 3:24, when I was finally getting back to sleep and I looked around again, I didn't see Noah. I just assumed he was here because 20 minutes earlier he was. It was never worded like that. But that's the only way both outcomes could be true, if that appropriate language was used, and it wasn't. So, what does it mean at the end of the day? If the 2:40 a.m. timestamp of the rollover is true, it means Noah would have been outside. 2 minutes later, Kaden woken up. 10, 15 minutes onwards, getting closer to 3 in the morning, getting ready to drift off back to sleep, and Kaden says he sees Noah with Jack and with Jasmine. What, like nothing ever happened? You've just had a rollover incident. You're bloodied. You got an injured nose. You're not going to go from being out there to then going inside 2 minutes later after the rollover and hanging out with people. So really, the 2:40 timestamp cannot link to what Kaden stated in his public interview. The timestamp in the private interview, what I showed you a clip of earlier, cannot link with what Kaden saw next in his public interview with the reference of Noah was near the beer pong table. Because at least how we interpret it, after that rollover, Noah taken inside, kind of escorted by Carter, Jasmine, and probably taken straight to the shower because of what's just happened, being dirty and bloodied. Don't want any drip marks on the ground. Wash that off, cleanse the nose, and does it need stitches? Does it need a bandage? Was that ever applied? Surely it would be a visible injury. Was there any care or concern there? Because it's interesting how Carter and some others say, yeah, it was just a rollover. That's all it was. He got dirty. That's it. He got dirty. That was it. So how come Kaden is saying that Noah had an injury? Shouldn't that be seen to? You've got Jasmine Milan, who's like a care assistant at the time or became one later. That personality trait, that mindset of caring for people and picking up on what's wrong. And supposedly Carter afterwards feeding Noah a level of care. You need food in your system. It will help you. This and that will help. We need to help Noah into the shower and help make sure he stands up and doesn't fall. Okay. What about the care and focus on let's help him with his nose? He's got a cut or some kind of graze? Let's put a plaster on. Does it need stitches? Does he need medical service? What happens there? No mention about it. Complete disregard. That is questionable. It sounds like whenever Noah is truly hurt in some way, other people downplay it. I want everyone to focus in right now and people clip this video. I know Victor did recently, shout out to Victor. And I know someone else, can't remember the name, begins with an S, has It All Helps eventually. When Noah Presgrove supposedly found out that Jack, flirting with his girlfriend, stabbed in the back his best friend, Kaden witnessed that. Kaden stated what happened. And I believe that was in the private interview as well. Quite eye-opening. It was Noah yelling at Jack on the Saturday. Okay, did Noah have a right to do that? Well, you've been betrayed and your best friend's spoken behind your back to your girlfriend. It's not exactly a nice position to be in. So in a way, Noah would have felt hurt psychologically by it, betrayed, lack of trust issue in the moment. That psychological effect, what it can have on people, can be damaging. It can be upsetting. It can cause all kinds of things, depending on how people react at the time and how they take it. But how did Jack reflect on it when he talked about it at times? Oh, between us, we apologised, we cried, it was all okay in the end, making it sound like it was a 50-50 responsibility. Both parties were to blame. Yet from Kaden's outlook and what he witnessed, it was one-sided. Jack caused a problem. Noah gave him a piece of his own mind. One-sided. One person's in the wrong. The other person is simply a victim to being backstabbed, right? But to downplay it, downplay how it hurt Noah, possibly. That's typical. And then the side-by-side incident, which could be considered more of an accident with hearing about the injury. One time you could say Jack Newton slipped up because he always referenced it to an accident, even though he himself said there was no damage done, which would mean an incident. Slip of the tongue, maybe, by calling it an accident, the one mistake there. But it seems to be true, an accident, a form of damage done to the individual or vehicle. And from what Kaden says, from what Kaden witnessed, second-hand, but with hard evidence, injury. What did the girls do, or one of the girls say? Oh, Noah was dirty. Or what did Jack say, or someone else? Oh, Noah was dirty. He needed a wash. No reference to a physical injury. Just downplayed, minimised. Oh, flirting with Noah's girlfriend. Oh, it was resolved anyway, it doesn't matter. It sounds like whenever Noah Presgrove is injured, hurt, physically, mentally, betrayed, things like that, it gets downplayed and ignored and glossed over with another explanation or excuse. Not giving the full story. Once again, attitudes showing. This is what I mean. This is how deep we can get. Could get even deeper, possibly. There's a time and place for it all. I said, we are not finished yet with that 2:40 timestamp because there might be other ways of looking at it and wording it, but I just want to focus in today and make it as clear as possible. So, 2:40 in the morning, side-by-side rollover and Noah injured. If we knew of the timestamp of the shower, that would indicate the level or lack of urgency getting one person from one place to another. The quicker it's done, the more serious it's taken. The slower it's done, not as much of a deal. Now, when it comes to alternative statements being made in the background that, oh, it was Kaden Pressy that helped roll over the vehicle, wasn't the case because Kaden was asleep, he said it himself. And with having that knee brace from the ACL meniscus surgery and recovery, he wasn't mobile enough to even move much or do something like that, lifting, moving something heavy. So when you got the abstract false claims made in the background, that doesn't help either. But that's done in more of a reckless way and probably an intent to cause harm or trouble. When it comes to Kaden Pressy, appears to be an individual that doesn't want to cause direct harm or trouble to the case. But it is clearly shown that there are inconsistencies present. Because if we want to just add on briefly, if I may, We've had disagreements in the past, haven't we? Not with Kaden directly, but like audiences. Times in the past where others have been right and I've been wrong, yet I was the true one, despite being most critical of Kaden, to be consistent with what he stated in the past, just so happening to be the private interview. How weird and how odd is it that in the private interview a month earlier, before the Partners in True Crime one, where you think a month's difference can make a big change in terms of memory recollection, of course it's still some time off and a space apart from when it truly did happen, the events unfolding, to when the June interview took place of 2024, if I'm correct, yeah? The original first interview was October 2023, another private interview. How interesting would it be to compare that to the June one? But still, it's more drastic. The 1 month difference, the space apart from the private to the public, there was more detail in the private interview compared to the public one, as you would expect. But then there were certain things retracted or not truly highlighted in the public one, which were mentioned in the private one, but how it was presented in the public one came across as if there was something sensitive that couldn't be talked about. Oh, I don't want to be talking about Friday. We don't want to be talking about that. Why? Because you were there, something happened, you're not allowed to talk about it. But a month before, in the private interview, Kaden said, yeah, I was there Friday. That's when there was 40 people present. And yet in the public interview, I know it was Sunday, when there were 30 to 40 people present. Where are we going? You know, it's like, in one interview, there's missing details, as you would expect, because it's public. In the previous one, those extra details are included, because it's private. But then elsewhere, in the public interview, there's some things which come across as retracted, because it's really important and serious. But then when you hear about it in the public one, it's like, oh, you were there Friday, not a big deal, not much happened. Now, if questions were asked differently or there was add-ons within the public interview with Partners in True Crime, you might have got different answers. I don't think there was really a push or follow-up on the side-by-side rollover, or especially the argument on Saturday. That wasn't asked. You can't blame Partners in True Crime completely. They did good enough being able to do an interview, and that's what they normally specialise in. I don't do that stuff, so I'm not really in a position to be talking too much, in all fairness. I do what I do because I'm more comfortable with it and it just works for me. But maybe genuinely, if some questions were asked or followed up on or done differently, you might have got a different response. It's kind of like, did you see Noah having a shower? And I think that was mentioned in the public interview, Partners in True Crime, whether that be part 1 or the part 2, that 10-minute extra bit of footage. And Kaden said, no, didn't see it, because he would have been asleep at the time. But Kaden did say, but I overheard Noah inquiring about having a shower Sunday night later. There we go. Noah already had it in his mind about having a shower before the side-by-side rollover. At the end of the day, anyone can have a shower at any point for numerous reasons. But this whole point was being made that the side-by-side rollover and the shower was because of it. Getting all dirty, that's why Noah wanted a shower. But it's not really, is it? Because if Noah wanted a shower anyway, earlier on, it was already in his mind even before the side-by-side rollover. The side-by-side rollover wasn't the be-all and end-all decision maker, was it then? So let's take that in perspective. Now, you could add on and say, well, the side-by-side, right, we know the timestamp, we know the condition Noah was in. We're now aware that partygoers minimised, did not acknowledge that Noah was actually injured, even though they claimed to care. Oh, we'll forget about that. We'll just focus on Noah being all dirty with all dirt on and dust, and that's it. Questionable. But the partygoers, the one that recorded it, the one that walked up to Noah's face with a camera in hand, showing it all and Kaden supposedly seeing it, the purpose of that, the purpose of showing that video to Kaden after, and the timing of it. These are key questions. And then the main one is, who else was on that side-by-side? And how did they feel? Were they fine? Were they okay? Were they injured? Did they laugh? Were they angry with Noah and the reckless driving? What was the aim and purpose of the side-by-side rollover? As I said in a past video, if Noah hadn't rolled over and maybe not as drunk, where would he have gone and how long for? Oh, he's going to drive off to cool down. Is that a new one? Oh, he's going to do some stunts. Oh, he's going to drive home because earlier on in the night, or Sunday roughly, he wanted to go back home. He wanted a lift, but no one would give him one. So what other chance did he have? Opportunistic behaviour. I'll use Jack side by side and steal his keys. You know why that could be a possibility? Of all the people you could use someone else's vehicle, steal it, borrow it, without the permission of the owner, who would you pick? You know, such as if you're at a party or somewhere, surrounded by a range of humans and maybe some strangers. Whose vehicle are you going to use? The one person that there'll be less backlash with, supposedly, which would be your best friend or a family member or a loved one, or if you're in a relationship with somebody, you're more likely to borrow, steal a vehicle for that reason towards that person because you feel like there are less consequences afterwards. They're going to be more understanding of you. There's going to be less backlash, etc. You try doing it, stealing a vehicle or borrowing one without consent from a stranger, you see how that goes, right? An alternative perspective would be towards Jack, Noah borrowing, stealing the keys to do with Jack would be getting back at him. Maybe there wasn't an eye for an eye, truly, in terms of the girl situation. But if it's true that Noah was yelling at Jack because Jack was flirting with Noah's girlfriend at the time or earlier, and when Noah found out about it, such as at the party, he felt betrayed and he felt, you know what? I'm going to get back at you, Jack. I'm going to use your vehicle. Not just because I want to get back and people have rejected me, but also because I'm sick of you. I'm going to play a prank on you. I'm going to make the vehicle disappear, and then you're going to be worrying where it's at. And then you're going to call about, and then I'm going to say, I've got it. You want it back? Come here, big boy. You know, kind of like prankster. Getting your own back in a not so harmful way. But in the process of a possible attempt being made like that, 2-for-1 reasons. Wanting to leave, an opportunistic type activity of being able to do it. Selecting someone that you may be frustrated with at the time is killing multiple birds with one stone, right? Getting that bit of revenge, prankster type mentality from Noah as we've seen, wanting to leave, less consequences when it comes to Jack because they're best friends, so there should be a better understanding. I'm sure Noah wouldn't be pranking or doing the same like that towards a complete stranger who could be dangerous or respond badly. So just worth taking in mind. I'm not stating it as a fact, but it's a possibility. But unfortunate for Noah because of the drinking as well. Rolling over. I'm sure Noah wouldn't have done it on purpose. Maybe he wasn't quite there with it. When you're drunk and driving, not a good combination. Bad things can happen. Whilst it's not a good thing that it did, it was better that than being on the highway. Because if it occurred along the highway, chances are could have been more fatal and it could have harmed more people on the road if it did roll over. And it would have covered up the possibility of if anyone was going to kill Noah anyway, it wouldn't have happened, so they wouldn't have had the chance to do it. So an unknown killer who could kill again in the future, or finally kill in the future. That's another way of looking at it. So there are many questions unanswered. And to be honest, a lot of questions have come out just from this one video, but that's what I do. And if there are responses and there are answers, you can leave it below in the comment section. I just hope people are able to focus in with this video. I know I'm showing my face a lot, which could be a little bit boring, like with images and photos along the way would help, but just got to lock into the camera whilst I'm talking. It just makes it easier to do so. So to refer back to that 2:40 AM timestamp, if we knew the timestamp of the shower, you could compare the time difference of 2:40 to the time of the shower. And then in between would be well, it's not quite in between, but kind of 2:42 when Kaden's awake. Maybe the middle ground would be 3 in the morning when he supposedly went back to sleep, as said in the public interview. But the timestamp of when Kaden went back to sleep after the mother called is inconsistent, because in the public interview it's around 3 in the morning, or at least in the Facebook one. In the private interview it's about 3:20, 3:24. 20-minute time difference of when he truly went back to sleep. That's odd. Now, let's just try and word it as an alternative. It gets a little bit deeper now. If Kaden was asleep at the time of when the side-by-side rollover occurred, and when Noah went into the house to have a shower, that's the time when Kaden woke up, supposedly. It would have to be closer to 3 or a bit beyond to make the 3:20:24 a.m. timestamp more applicable, as in stating, I just assumed Noah was here, I didn't actually see him. Maybe he was in another room having a shower. And then as soon as when Noah was done there and came back inside to teabag people, or to get food, as it's been stated by alternative humans, that's when Kaden was back to sleep. But it would make the public interview invalid with certain timestamps. That's a problem, isn't it? This 2:40 a.m. timestamp individual ends up kind of undoing Kaden Pressy's other times given. And like I said, never quite finished my sentence earlier on, but I said this isn't the first time. In the past, when it came to Brylan Sweat and Noah Presgrove, and this too was mentioned in the private interview, which I re-quoted. Take in mind, what I state, what I reference is from memory, and I have the original notes for it. I don't know if I've got like an example with me right now, I don't, but I still got the papers elsewhere. And those notes, almost word for word with what was stated at the time by Kaden from that private leaked hacked interview when he was talking to police. More information than ever, but more inconsistencies than ever. How's that so? Well, we've seen it with the 2:40 timestamp and what people elsewhere are stating to be 2:20. How do we go from a 20-minute time difference here? Oh, and then we've got a 20-minute time difference there with after when he went to sleep, back to sleep. Was it 3 in the morning or was it 3:20? If it was near to 3 in the morning, that's when Kaden saw Noah. But if it's at 3:20, that's when Kaden said he just assumed Noah was there but wasn't actually present. All I'm saying is, the more inconsistencies that show up, and it's not me attacking Kaden, but I'm just giving you a solid heads up, this gives ammunition to the possible opposition to state that 5:15 of when Jack announced the news of Noah's death may not be, and it might be later. So the minute hand could be true, the hour hand could be wrong. Not 5:15, but 6:15. Will this cause backlash? I don't know, but let's be realistic. The more inconsistencies that show up, the more you start to question it. Look at Jack Newton, the inconsistencies there with time. And some things not really followed up on either, and just left. You start questioning it. You think, do they know more, or are they causing misdirection? What are they trying to do? What is the aim? What else could they be wrong about? In terms of when it comes to Kaden Pressy, it's not so much as in, oh, well, if that's inconsistent and this and that is, then it must mean he's doing it on purpose to cause harm. I'm not saying that, but just a simple doubt of, well, if this and that's wrong, what else could be? Possibly by mistake. So when, is it Sarah Long or Stevie Howard that may have questioned Kaden or said that he's wrong, if they have poorly worded it, then it's on them, those parents, those much older people that have acted in a incorrect way, not a professional way. But it'll be easy for the general public to go in on Stevie, Sarah, and others to call it gaslighting, because I know humans like to use the little buzzwords at times. Okay, just like how people like to use the little buzzwords when making false claims about me and calling me this and that. It's typical degenerative sheep-like language, and I don't do sheepish language. Okay, I'm good at sounding like a sheep, but I don't use that language. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. So when you're looking at it from the outside looking in, you got Kaden Pressy putting himself out there, which is a positive when others don't. That's a big difference. But the more you talk and the more you reveal, the higher the chance at some point you might make mistakes along the way, which is kind of natural. And with the timing as well, it's understandable. But with that comes possible questioning. And as the cracks open and more inconsistencies show, you might start questioning and questioning and questioning. Is that what Stevie and Sarah and others did out there? But how they worded it, they were a bit more forceful, almost bullying. So it gave the general public ammunition to say, well, that person's gaslighting, and we're going to defend Kaden because there is emotional connection, a conflict of interest. And that's the beginning of the downfall. What I would say is, you could suggest that Kaden Pressy is wrong about this or that, based off other inconsistencies and more showing with time. That's not to say that's gaslighting, it's just suggesting and being skeptical. But I can't remember how Sarah or Stevie and others worded it at the time. If they just said, you're wrong, you're messing it up, you're doing it for alternative reasons, that could be considered a bit more forceful, unnecessary. But just by simply saying, well, this 1:30 a.m. timestamp, which Kaden Pressy said in his private interview with the police, that at 1:30 a.m. Monday morning, that's when Brylan slapped Noah and Kaden recorded it. Maybe it's true that Kaden recorded it, but from the horse's mouth or close to that, presented in a photo, at some point previously, what I saw with my own eyes, so believe me in what I say, it was a screenshot or a still photo of a screenshot from the original video from the default gallery app where videos and photos are stored when you normally record things, with the original timestamp presented, which gave the day, the year, the month of when it truly happened with Noah, and on the day of the slapping taking place, with the timestamp of 1:05 a.m. The original timestamp, supposedly. That is a 25-minute difference from what Kaden stated in the private interview compared to the original timestamp of what's shown and displayed as 1:05. And I checked with Alicia Lee, and she confirmed it was 1:05 a.m. when it was actually recorded by Kaden. So why in the private interview did Kaden say it happened 25 minutes later? Oh, it's just a mistake, it's memory. Okay, fair enough. But then what about the other timestamps and the other events and the 40 people at the party? Friday and Saturday, or just Sunday? Kaden attending the party on a Friday, in the private interview stated, or starting on a Saturday, as mentioned in the public interview. And there'll probably be more inconsistencies, but if you want to hear about the inconsistencies, almost word for word with the notes that I made at the time of listening into all the stuff from start to finish, I've done a separate video, map analysis, comparison, side by side, of the two interviews and the timestamps timeline given, and there are some big inconsistencies. Inconsistencies are inconsistencies. It switches and it changes. I'm just simply making the observation and pointing them out to try and understand what's really true and why mistakes have been made along the way. If people are going to go all in on Jack Newton and others for being inconsistent, if there are others being inconsistent but they're protected by humans, seems a bit one-sided. You need to look at it as a whole, and everyone. Maybe not all at the same time, but one by one. And sometimes if you attack the poster person, or someone on a pedestal, or the golden goose, I don't even know if that's a thing, if you do question it, then you might get silenced. You might get attacked. I've not been banned or blocked on Facebook because I don't make post. I do it here. And then others make the choice to share these videos onto those platforms. If I said what I said in all my videos on platforms elsewhere online, maybe I could be blocked or silenced. Who knows? I'm not saying anywhere exactly, but, these are my opinions, these are my thoughts, my analysis, my observations externally on a separate platform on my own channel, which I run. But if I went about shouting out, speaking out on other platforms which I'm not in control of, it could end differently, couldn't it? So when other people say, oh, I've been silenced from the Justice Family Run page, for what reason? Oh, I've been blocked from a more informal page, for what reason? Is it because someone stated the truth or made a valid observation and was silenced for that? And obviously, the more you talk and the more you point out, the more of a marked enemy you might become to a numerous amount of people out there. So, do I truly believe that this rollover happened at 2:40? Well, from the private interview, that's how it's been worded. I've not heard it worded differently elsewhere from the horse's mouth or from other key people. I know viewers have made or stated different times, but that is just by viewers. I don't know what they've seen or what they've heard. I think some people were actually making reference saying, oh, it was from the interview, that's the time. It's not though. I've just shown you it, the interview. You want to rewind back, you can if you want. Is there a possibility that later on in the interview the time was changed? Not from what I can remember. I didn't make any notes there about a change. There was a bit of switching and changing there about whether he was there Friday or Saturday, and whether it was Saturday or Sunday when Kaden went out with girls to a shop. It's confusing how it was worded in that private interview, if I'll be honest with you. I stick with the public interview there, how it was worded, because it just made more sense that on the Sunday, when dropped off, after the guys went back out to town, maybe that's when TV was watched, a movie, okay. Would it have been at the same time of going out to a shop nearby to buy some more alcohol? Or would that have been later? No timestamp given. A little bit shaky and uncertain, if I'll be honest with you. But focusing on 2:40 a.m, Noah is already out of the vehicle, bloodied, and a person is filming it all. What did Noah say in that footage? Hey, back off, get away. Did he say anything? Or was he out of it? Who else was in that video recording? Because if there was video footage of it, or at least a photo, or both, it would show who was nearby, who else was possibly as passengers. Why would Noah be instantly taken to a shower or needed to be escorted when there might be other people that are just as dirty? Did they not get shower treatment? Is it possible that supposedly stated by Carter that when Noah's best buddy, but not Jack, another best buddy who we've never heard of, who jumped on into the shower to mess with Noah, did it because they needed a wash as well? Could that link back to the side-by-side rollover? Because if there are other passengers, that individual, that best buddy of Noah's that jumped on into the shower could have well been a passenger in that side-by-side rollover. And some have suggested it was Brylan Sweat. And some of us in the past have suggested it was Brylan Sweat that washed Noah down. But ever since, it's been worded as Carter and Jasmine. What a messy situation. But if it was Brylan, or if it was another partygoer who was a passenger to then jump into the shower to have a wash with Noah because maybe it's taking too long and that person wants to wash themselves, laughing and having fun, oh, it was all fine. See, the problem is, a lot of people are acting as representatives of Noah Presgrove because Noah can't speak himself. So it means the script can be changed. People can word it slightly differently. Responsibilities can be shifted. And certain impacts and important factors can be glossed over or just completely neglected. Completely. When you haven't got the key person about, they can't see or monitor or look over how the script or the narrative goes, and it's obviously most unfortunate that. So The only other way you can see it from Noah's point of view is the video footage, which captures him in the moment, what he had to say, his attitude, his thoughts, and for most part of it, we've just not had the chance to see it public. So that's a bit of a shortcoming. But I'd like to know the urgency or the lack of it with the rollover. Did Noah worry? Was he bothered, fazed by that injured nose? Was it straight to the shower? Or was it, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go inside, I'm going to hang out with Jack, who's supposed to be asleep supposedly, but I'm going to hang out with him and Jasmine by the beer pong table. And then when comes 2:42, that's when Kaden notices that Noah is inside. 2-minute time difference. I just don't think it's possible that Noah would be in that side by side, get out, get back into the house within 2 minutes to stand about playing beer pong as if nothing happened with a leaky nose, and then Kaden wakes up at 2:42 to see it. Because surely, if Kaden Pressy truly saw Noah 2 minutes after the rollover, unknown to Kaden at the time, but later piecing it together from that footage he was shown, 2 minutes after Kaden waking up, not aware of the rollover, but should have been aware of the condition Noah was in, such as the nose. If you've got a bloodied nose, I think it's going to be somewhat obvious, isn't it? So if it was true that 2:40 rollover, 2 minutes later, Noah goes inside with Jack, best friend, and with Jasmine, and then Kaden wakes up at 2:42 to see those people present. Kaden didn't mention anything about, oh yeah, I saw Noah, and by the way, he had a damaged nose, or he had blood on him, or he had a stain. No mention of that. That was mentioned in the public interview as in seeing Noah present. But in the private interview, Kaden said, at 3:20 or so, I assumed Noah was present. So what did you assume or presume before that though, closer to 3 in the morning, considering you were woken up at 2:42? Kaden woken up at 2:42 by the phone call. From 2:42 to 3:20, that's a big time gap of what, attempting to go back to sleep? And in that span of time, no mention of a rollover or seeing Noah walk into the house to then get washed up, or leaving the shower, coming out, not seeing any of that. We've got some issues, but maybe they can be cleared up. I just hope that this video doesn't lead to backlash, and if it does, I'll have to become the doctor in other ways, the doctor of language, wording, and the appropriate nature of how you handle the situation, because I know how attitudes can change and how snappy people can be. I'll be ready, and it will be under control, okay? But that aside, is there anything else, any more implications? Just a simple fact is, the earlier the timestamp, if that's incorrect or it changes, everything else after that will have a knock-on effect. Just like if you've got a train with multiple carriages, whether it be the super chat train, the super sticker train, or the membership train, choo-choo, incoming, time to give lots of gifts to somebody. Been a bit sarcastic there, but it did happen in the past, which was quite unexpected. I remember in the Dylan Rounds case, shout out to everyone that supported this channel at the time when that occurred. But the super chat train comes on in, and it's the like the front carriage, because it's moving in a certain direction. The first one to be impacted derails. Everything after that that's attached is going to be derailed as well. If it's the end carriage, yeah, it'll come off. Nothing behind it though to be impacted. No chain reaction. So inconsistencies in general can cause major issues, especially if it's earlier on, at the start, at the front, the forefront, a chain reaction of negatives which follow after that, which then leads to more questioning, more uncertainty, possible trust issues, and then questioning those said consistent individuals. Once again, maybe this video is only supposed to be about 5-10 minutes, but really had to lock in today. So once again, if you have joined late, you're catching up, be sure to rewind back to the beginning because you do not want to miss a single thing in today's videos. I've gone deeper than ever and questioned things maybe some people have never questioned before, right? So we'll leave it there for now. We'll see what happens next. Hopefully this video gets awareness. Something tells me it might not get the reach it deserves just because of the case not being as high activity or as popular now as it was previously, because some people would have given up, others may have moved on to other cases. It is what it is, but I'm still here and there are still videos to make. And because of thinking outside of the box, this is why we are where we are right now, okay? So cretins along the way that try and fiddle about, it only makes me lock on more. So there you go. If you want, feel free to hit the like button and share this video elsewhere to spread that awareness so more people hear about it and start the discussions down below. And once again, if there are any future updates, I can do another video. At the end of the day, I'm just truly basing this off of the theme of if Kaden Pressy is true and if Kaden Pressy is consistent, then we stick with those timestamps. And I seem to be one of the only few to have done that. Even at times when I have been wrong, I've stuck through and through with Kaden's timestamps. What does that say? There you go. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Good night.